Welcome, everyone. Hi, my name is Jenny Whitener, and I'm thrilled to welcome you today to our program, Leading a Learning Revolution, a strategy brief from Unum's head of L&D. So welcome, everyone. I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves to our speaker as we get started today. If you would, go into the chat here on Zoom and introduce yourself, just maybe add your name, your organization, and throughout today's program, feel free to use the chat for a shout out, to pose questions, to dialogue with each other about the comments from our speaker today. So welcome, everyone. We're just getting started, so go into the chat and introduce yourself, your name and your organization. That would be really helpful to me and to our guests today as we get started. So I see folks coming in I see Jeff's here. Philip, thanks so much. Jamie, Lauren, welcome. And John, thanks so much for being here today. Karen's Erica is here. Courtney, thanks so much, everyone, for joining in and saying hello to our guest speaker today. So again, our program, Leading a Learning Revolution. Let's get started. Welcome to the Inspire series. We are thrilled to have Karen Bradbury with us today. Bridge Innovate launched the Inspire series over a year ago, inviting leaders from across industries to share their inspirational stories of innovation, leadership, and change. And today we have a wonderful program for you. So let's get started. When you think about the aspect of talent and the impact that change is having on talent today, look at this particular statistics from Gallup, where they're talking about that US businesses are losing close to $1 trillion every year due to voluntary turnover. I share this statistics, one, because it's a wow factor, it's significant. And learning and development is a critical part of this, whether it's a part of the front end, which is around retaining individuals and giving them a career path, or if it's on the back end, if you've lost an associate, how you ramp up the new hires coming into your organization. So this financial impact is significant for organizations in the United States today. And I'm thrilled to introduce to you today our guest speaker, Karen Bradbury. Karen is the Vice President of Learning and Development at Unum. Many of you know that Unum is a Fortune 500 company that helps millions of people gain affordable access to disability, life, accident, critical illness, dental, and vision benefits through the workplace. Karen's accountable for establishing talent development vision and strategies for Unum and mobilizing the organization to achieve that vision through a deep understanding of the business and employee-related data, analytics, and insights that shape the organization's global development plan. I've had the privilege of being a partner with Karen for at least a decade and many projects that we've done together, whether it's around mobilizing people manager effectiveness or reinventing performance management at Unum. We've had a great time together teaming up on innovating in the HR space. Karen's a Maine resident, has been there for many years, the beautiful state of Maine, and is very active in her community, serving on the board of the Dempsey Center there. So welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much, Jenny. So glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much. So as people are coming in, please do continue to introduce yourselves in the chat. I'm going to start with asking Karen just to give us a briefing on what she's up to in revolutionizing L&D at Unum. So would you take us through a little bit of a briefing, and then we'll go into some questions for today's
Sure. Right.
Good.
And I do have a couple of slides Luke might go to, but I think it's an interesting journey. Of course I do, because I was in the middle of it. So maybe others will find this interesting as well. But I've been at Unum a little over 13 years. Came in as an AVP, but was an individual contributor, but was really assigned to work on talent management strategies. So it started off pretty small, honestly, in terms of, what it could be. And 13 plus years later, we now are at a place where we have a centralized learning and development function made up of about 100 or so people that support the enterprise. If you had asked me in 2008 if I could ever see that happening, I would have said, I don't think so. I don't think this is, what Unum envisioned. But we've evolved so nicely, and I think we're just in an incredible place now as a centralized, strong team to really help support the growth of our company. So when we centralized last year, we came together, like I said, it was a decentralized function up until then, where training really lived in the business, and, some of our talent acquisition resided in the business. But we made a decision, that we're better, coming together as one strong team. So we really think about our role as, without L&D, without a focus at our company on growth and development of our employees, you don't grow a company. A company like Unum is all about our employees and the talent and the knowledge and skills that our employees bring. So that's why I like this slide, because it is about driving Unum's growth through the growth of our employees. So Luke, if you go to the next page, since we were a brand new team coming together a little over a year ago, we knew we had to stop and say, what's our reason for existence? What is the value that we're going to be providing? So our purpose is about driving business growth through the growth of our employees. Our vision is that we want all of our employees engaged. We want them to be adaptable, flexible, and skilled to get done what they need to get done in their roles, to be successful in their roles, but also to be able to achieve their career goals at a company like Unum, which there are lots of opportunities here. So we really started by focusing on, we need to do even more to modernize, revolutionize the learner experience. This is ongoing. I think we've made tremendous progress, but we're not done. I don't think we'll ever be done in that regard. But again, wanting to make sure that learning is accessible, it's personalized, and it is around enabling, personal and professional growth and top performance. We also, obviously as an L&D function, we really believe in L&D. And so, we want to make sure that the company is focused on building that strong learning culture, where learning is valued, development is valued, and it's a key component to what we do and how we do it. And so, we're very lucky. I think our leaders absolutely understand the importance of this and support it. So we're very, very fortunate. We also saw an opportunity to be at the table in a different, more strategic way, given the goals of the company, knowing how important L&D is and the work that we all do in L&D to making it possible. We wanted to be very visible and play a different kind of role than maybe we had played in the past. And I'll talk a little bit about how that's played out in terms of our organizational structure. And then being really clear around the value, and not just like, this feels good, this seems like a good thing to do, but really being able to tie it back to results, to KPIs, to the data and the analytics that really support, the value of anything we're doing, whether it's programs, tools, resources, investments that we're making. So all of this happened, as we went through a pretty major organizational transformation as that team came together.
Right. And I remember, Karen, when we were teaming with you to develop this L&D strategy, one of the things that I found so inspirational was how your team really dug in on the inspiration phase, researching best practices, looking at data, interviewing managers and leaders across the organization, really getting clear on the business drivers. So I really felt like that inspiration phase launched you guys into designing this fantastic strategic approach for the company.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. We didn't do it in a vacuum. We did the external scan to see where can we be inspired, but also, as importantly, really, met with our stakeholders, and that's everyone from our leaders to our people managers to our employees, to understand what the need and opportunity was. So Luke, if you go to the next page, I'll just give a high level, overview of how we're organized in this new centralized function. And so one of the things that was very different, that was brand new and necessary as we came together, is this whole concept around a learning business partner. So people have heard of HR business partners in businesses, and we really saw the need to also have a learning business partner. Again, thinking about just the quickly changing and evolving needs from a skill development perspective, thinking about the quickly evolving, changing needs in the business itself, with talent development. And because we were being centralized, we knew we needed to have that learning business partner role in place to really continue to have that strong connect to the business. So that has worked out incredibly well. We hired some great people who are doing an amazing job as learning business partners, and we're hearing from the business just how helpful and valuable that's been. Also, we focus on executive development in this area as well. And then learning delivery, we have over 50 learning consultants who are really focused primarily, but not only, but primarily on new hire training. We do a lot of hiring, obviously, and operations roles. And so we've got an incredible group of learning consultants, lead learning consultants, they're learning managers, who are managing all of this. And it's a lot of work, and they're just doing an amazing job. We also have HR programs. So you think around the talent strategies and the importance of, thinking about how we're developing people, how we're attracting people. So we have pipeline programs for people, coming right out of college. We focus on employee, manager, leadership development, change management, et cetera. So very talented people running the HR programs organization. The other thing that was new and different was we saw the need when we were working with you, Jenny, and we were going through kind of our strategic work as we were thinking through what this department could be, is that we had kind of quote unquote curriculum kind of in a lot of different places. And it wasn't necessarily efficient. It wasn't necessarily consistent. And we thought, boy, there could be huge value in really centralizing that. And so that has paid off in just a big way, where we've just been able to be so much more organized, strategic, and really play such an important role, again, as we think about, the needs of the business. So that's been really, really exciting. And then we have a strong digital learning team who are the best of the best, in my opinion, just doing some incredible work to help support the business, help support the learning that's happening. So this is how we're currently organized, and so far, so good. It's worked really well, but it's like anything, these kind of things continue to evolve as business and, the circumstances around us evolve, but this is working really well right now.
And one of the things, Karen, I would just shout out to the team, because we work with a lot of companies in this space, but I really love the fact that when you guys came up with this learning business partner model, I'll go highlight that as well, that in order for the business to be agile, adaptive, and continually respond to the business, that relationship between the business leader and your learning business partner is creating that clear understanding, the ongoing communication of how learning needs to adapt and be responsive to enable that performance at the employee level. And then all the other elements that you're putting in, the curriculum management, the digital learning, give you the mechanisms, right, to be agile and be responsive.
Right.
So I think it's great for your employees who need the training. It's great for your managers that need the performance. And it's really sort of this nice combination that's come together like a beautiful orchestra.
It has. I mean, it really has. So, I mean, we went into it very thoughtfully and, trying to be very planful, as we did this. But part of it, when you're putting together a new organizational structure, you don't know until you're in it whether or not it's going to work. But it has worked really well. It helps that I have incredibly talented people, dedicated learning and development professionals on my team. It makes it relatively easy because of that.
Great. Okay. So Luke, I think we have another slide. I was just going to talk about the fact that, this topic that we're talking about today, cultivating talent, McKinsey's reported it as one of the top 5 priorities for CEOs today, especially with the shift with the Great Resignation, the level of automation and change that are affecting organization. Cultivating talent and building skills is critical to organizations. How have you made that business case there at Unum? How are you establishing with leaders and with the senior execs that learning is vital at Unum?
Well, I would have to say, we are very fortunate that I don't have to convince them of that. They get it, so, and I know that's not true in every company. So I feel extremely fortunate. We're a company of people. We're knowledge workers. Our company exists and thrives because of the talent within the 4 walls or wherever somebody's sitting, at this point. And so talent management, learning and development is a huge, huge priority. We get support in terms of our funding. We get support in terms of our resources. I feel very fortunate that it's pretty clear that without a strong learning culture and without the right focus on learning and development, that, it's going to be hard to accomplish our goals as a company.
Right. And, when you think about, you did a great job highlighting for our audience today the key pillars of your learning strategy, your learning and development strategy. But when you think about that, is there one or two pieces that you think these are the real differentiators when you think about having led L&D for many years for a lot of organizations? What's so distinctive about this strategic approach that makes it revolutionize learning?
Well, so I would say a couple things. One, coming together as a centralized function was a pretty big deal for us as a company. I've been here 13 plus years. And, well before that, I know that it was very decentralized, that training, for example, was in the business. So coming together to centralize it, to really have the opportunity to better leverage resources, to better strategize, and strategy made a huge difference. We've been able to accomplish things like the implementation of our knowledge management system, for example, because we were a centralized function. If we were continuing to try to do things in the business, it's just much, much harder, to get the approval, to get the funding, to get the attention that you need. Right. As an enterprise function, that's really helped. But then I would say, so coming together, one big team has been incredible. And part of that too is just the people within L&D, now have opportunities. So we've seen a ton of promotions, a ton of movement, a ton of opportunities that would have been harder, to exist in that world. So there's that. And then, again, I've already spoken a little bit about the importance of the learning business partner model, and having that tight connect back to the business and having these strong, consultative professionals that can really help to figure out what's the best approach for this business area, what's the best approach for, us as a company. And then the curriculum team has just been a game changer as well, So I think those are the keys. And then you have on the learning delivery side, again, it used to be very decentralized. You now have one leader who's got the big chessboard, and really is looking at where do we have the greatest need, where do we have the greatest opportunities, and all of these things have made a huge difference. And then the other thing is just hiring and surrounding yourself with really, really talented people, So, I have no qualms about hiring people who are smarter, more creative, more talented than I am. It works out extremely well because they're just a great team.
You talked a little bit about knowledge management. Well, let's go further. Tell me a little bit about how technology is a part of your strategy. How are you using technology? How are you interfacing it with capabilities like knowledge management? How is that leading to an associate experience that might be different at Unum for L&D?
Yeah, so I would say we're getting there, but there's still a ton of work to do. So I'll start off with that. But I think we've done a good job, definitely bringing in knowledge management, a knowledge management system, standing up a knowledge management team who's really focused on ensuring that our employees, our frontline employees, have access to what they need when they need it, and that continues to get better every day, honestly, as we continue to use that technology. So that was big. We also have learning management system through Workday, and that has evolved quite a bit over the last number of years, so that we're able to track, we're able to help track learning, we're able to help our employees to easily get access to what they need, for their jobs or for their career interests. We also augment, where we need to, where, if there's something that can't be done within our current LMS, we might augment with another company, but we have to be careful about that as well, because you can get to the point where you're just cobbling together a whole bunch of technologies, and that can be hard in terms of maintenance and, staying on top of that. But I think, I think about how most people learn today. I was just, one of my colleagues was talking about, thank goodness for Google. She was working on something, trying to learn about something, and was able to, in her personal life, was able to Google, how to fix something. Right. And it's I think that's kind of the mentality too. We have to think about it. It's bite-sized learning, easy access, and access when you need it. is
Mhm.
really, so important to us. And also having that opportunity for like what I need might be different from what you need.
Right.
So how do we make sure that it's personalized and specific to what my needs are? So
Mhm.
this is, it's ongoing. We don't stop, thinking about what the possibilities are. But we have made tremendous strides in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. And just being a partner with you over the years, that you guys are making great strides. And I also want to shout out this strategy that where you had integrating knowledge management early. I know that you've been incubating and growing that for several years now as you broaden your L&D strategy. And with the great resignation, so much institutional knowledge is walking out the door, it's retiring, and you guys are prepared. So not only with your traditional learning, skill building programming, but also capturing knowledge. And as you said, using the technologies to bite size that so that it can be referenced and accessed by employees when they need it. Right. So I think it's this strategy of using all of those capabilities to empower performance at Unum. One of the things I want to get to, I know that we have a lot to cover, but so often leaders will declare fantastic strategies. They'll come up with something really bold or powerful, but they hit a snag on implementation. And you all have done a fantastic job, not only in building a very robust and forward-thinking strategy, but you're mobilizing on the implementation side like crazy. Talk to us, give us some tips around effective mobilization of strategy. How do you get this thing implemented?
Yes, good. Yeah, and we've reflected back on it when we were able to take a step back and think, well, what have we just done? How much have we accomplished? We were able to look back and say, this is kind of amazing in a lot of ways. I think it does start with everybody that came together in this new L&D organization. Before they worked with me or worked for me, I had good relationships, so there's a degree of, I guess, credibility, maybe even, good experiences working together in the past, so that when we came together as this new team, I think there was a level of trust, that happened amongst all of us. So that helped a lot. And then, it was an interesting time to bring together a new strategy and a new team during the height. Well, I don't know, maybe we're at the height of the pandemic, I'm not sure, but, during a pandemic. So many of us were, working virtually. It was a really, really interesting time. So the only thing I can attribute to, any kind of success that we've had in that regard is, again, it's the people. So, the leaders that I have on my team are ego-free, and and really are about building the right things for the team, the right things for the organization, L&D, and the right things for Unum itself. And I think that's what really made a difference. So if we had come in and there had been a lot of drama, or a lot of people trying to kind of push their way to the front, as we were bringing this new team together, it just would have been that much more difficult. But it was, that's what I attribute it to, great culture.
I can see that as well, that I know that when we were teaming up on the strategy design and strategy launch, you were very intentional that even though we're in the midst of a pandemic, we did that virtually. We had all the team engaged, right? And everybody was participating, everybody was providing input. So there was a collective ownership and how you approach defining the strategy. And then even that you've continued, like strategy refresh or realignments, each year, like bringing that team together, and you didn't let the pandemic get in the way of all that creative energy. So hats off to you and your team for continuing that culture. Talk to me a little bit about some of the ways that you're ensuring engagement in the process and how you're adapting and continuing to have learning and development be engaged with employees and with managers in the organization.
Well, I would say one of the things that we do, and is it's not just one size fits all, in terms of learning and development. So I'd kind of touched on some of those, but we really do have great offerings and great opportunities for, for individual contributors, for people managers, for leaders, and everything in between. And so, one of the true values of the learning business partner role, for example, is really working with the business areas to remind them of what's available. So when they're coming to us and saying, this is what I have for a need or an opportunity from an L&D perspective, we're able to say to them, we have a lot of options. And if we don't have it, we know where to go as well, So, so we continually are working on, how do we make sure that what we have is accessible to all employees? How do we make sure they have time to focus on that? And that's going to be a big area of priority for us this year, is how to make sure that people have the time to be able to do this and the support. And then, you have to think about what people want. I mean, they don't want to, they want something that's engaging, that is easy to understand, easy to wrap their head around, that maybe they can have some fun while they're learning. And so I just think that, the multitude of offerings that we have, can really meet the needs of almost anybody in our company. Mm-hmm. And we're happy to always, have those conversations when people are coming to us and saying, what do we do? I have this need. It's like, we have solutions.
It sounds like you have a great set of listening skills, right? And commitment by your team to constantly adapt, which has been great. Tell me about when you were thinking about our audience today, and if they're faced with revolutionizing learning in their organization or being a part of a team on L&D that's really transforming the business through learning, what advice do you have for them?
That's a good one. Well, hopefully you're lucky enough to work in a company that does support learning and does, really emphasize that through the resourcing and budget perspective, et cetera. But if they don't, I think it's easy to really point to the data and the research of the importance of focusing on the growth and development of your employees. I don't know a company around that isn't, that won't need to continually, think about what it's going to take to continue, to compete and to be, in the market. There's just evolution that's necessary for absolutely every single one of us. So right there, that's the argument for why it's so important to have, a strong learning culture and hopefully a great L&D team supporting that. So, if it's not already apparent, I think it's really easy to point to data, and to point to the research to say, this is why it's important. It's not just a nice to do, it's imperative. If you are going to grow or maintain a company, you have to invest in the growth and development of your employees.
Right. So this really focusing on the data, getting the information, I think also just being a part of your team, that you're constantly stretching yourselves. You're looking for inspiration of the new frontier for L&D. And then you're talking about your people, right? The skills of your team, the commitment and trust of your team to really be that revolutionized learning capability for the company. I feel that every day when I meet and talk with your team members. Yeah. So great. We may have a couple moments for questions. Are you up for one? If people submit.
Sure, do it. Yeah.
Okay. So if anyone has a question for Karen today, let's bring those in on the chat. We've just got a couple minutes left in today's program. We'd love to hear from you if you have a question for Karen on their L&D capability, or any suggestions that you might want to get from her today. So I would have you bring those in on the chat at this point.
I think it's a good time to be in L&D. That's the other thing I would say. So, yeah.
It is. And I think that, one of the things I've really felt in working with your team is this commitment to the associate experience. That when you guys stepped back and you were working on your strategy, you had not only that looking at the business leader, what their needs were, but you were looking at the associate themselves and what is their experience. So I've got a question coming in from John that says, is there a natural attrition rate? And if so, what would it be in the organization that you have to be prepared for?
I mean, we definitely have had, typical years where we know what our turnover is going to be. I mean, because of the Great Resignation, even a company like Unum that has, strong engagement, and, we're probably seeing more than we would like to. It's so even more imperative, right? That we are really, providing great value to our employees so that they stay here and want to stay here. Right. We do that, and we can do a lot of that through, what we do in L&D.
Right. So you become a strategic, attraction component for keeping people there and also building new capability. Well, thank you so much, Karen, for a wonderful program today. It's great to hear your success story. Congratulations to you and your entire team for revolutionizing learning in the corporate space. We're going to keep watching all the great things that you're doing and learning from you. We have other inspirational webinars coming up. I hope you'll join us again. I just encourage you to check us out at bridgeinnovate.com under our events page. Jasmine Epsey is coming up. She is the director of the Small Business Development Center at Prairie View A&M. We've recently teamed with her to launch an entrepreneurial sprint for minority-owned businesses. You don't want to miss this great program coming up later in January. Owen Foster, a professor of innovation and design, will be sharing his perspective on building innovation capacity. Lamart Clay, a new consultant with us, is going to be talking about leading in a time of uncertainty coming up in February. And our own Hannah Lancaster talking about the value proposition canvas, a tool to understand customer needs. So please do join us again. If you have suggestions or inspirational leaders in your organization that you think would be a great speaker, let me know. I'm jenny.whitener at bridgeinnovate.com. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.